Hello everyone and welcome to Nostalgia Bait, the number one podcast among mums. Tell your mum about our podcast today. I'm your host Ryan, Secret Agent Clank's number one fan, joined by my trusty chauffeur Anastasia.
Hello everyone.
Now,
Wasn't expecting us to be back this early, were you?
no, it's only been like 5 weeks instead of 32.
Woohoo!
Yeah. Now, let me set the scene. The year? Around like 2006 or 2007 or something like that. The time? Christmas morning. Young Ryan and his sister rip into their presents. The final present. A bright yellow box. Inside, a PlayStation 2 Slim. Notably, without a memory card. Ryan and his sister both get 3 games. Ryan got Scooby-Doo Mystery Mayhem, V8 Supercars 3, and finally, Ratchet and Clank 3, up your arsenal. Now, like all topics I bring to this pod, nostalgia is a huge driving force, and what better source of nostalgia than one of the first video games I ever owned? Anastasia, do you remember your first games?
Yeah, so I guess the first games I would have had in the house would have been like CD-ROM games, so like Paintball Lemmings, and we had a few Sesame Street games. But then in 2009 or 10 is when I got my DS Lite.
Ooh.
So I guess I got like Nintendogs and stuff. I remember I had a Totally Spies
Nice.
Game Boy Advance game.
Nice.
Good times.
Now, I don't recall exactly the year when me and my sister got our PlayStation 2, but it certainly was a few years after release, so these games all were a few years old by the time I got to them. Ratchet and Clank itself being released in 2004, probably about 3 or 4 years before I got to it. Now the third game in the series, with one being released each year from 2002 to 2005 by Insomniac Games, whom you may also know for Spyro the Dragon and Marvel's Spider-Man being their biggest property at the moment. Now, Insomniac Games had a really big internal push with this game. Over 100 employees working on it, constant testing internally with Sony, and taking a lot of feedback from fans from the previous 2 games. Remember when you could just make a game in 1 year and it'd be substantially better than the previous games?
Yeah, well, I can't remember which ones. It was either 1 or 2 or 2 and 3 of The Sims were made simultaneously.
Yeah,
And yeah, they were like...
It's been 10 years and we're only now getting GTA 6.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy how quickly games used to be developed. Obviously, it's harder now because the software or the hardware can handle bigger and better things. But it's incredible how spoiled we were, to be totally honest.
Yeah, this younger, spoiled generation doesn't understand how we were fine with triangle boobs from Lara Croft. Now, God forbid, women have peach fuzz on their cheeks.
God forbid they have triangle boobs. So I'm campaigning for them to bring triangle boobs back, personally. That's what I'm really hoping. Next Tomb Raider reboot. Yeah. Perfectly hyper-realistic, but titties maximum of 6 polygons. That's what I'm hoping for. And look, just to put into perspective the headspace the developers had going into this game, I have a quote from employee Ryan Schneider. The analogy that I like to use is that Insomniac, we look at it as how Tiger Woods, Michael Jordan, and Kobe Bryant act when it comes to their professions. We don't really look at it and how we compare to other athletes or other games. This in particular references Jak 3, which was being developed at the same time. We just try to do our best that we can to elevate the sport. And hopefully, only sleep with the women they're married to. Unlike Tiger Woods and Kobe Bryant.
Ratchet is no homewrecker.
Ratchet is not a homewrecker. He is a simp, but not a homewrecker. And look, I just think I admire it, but it is quite funny that they're going into Ratchet and Clank 3 like it's Game 7 of the NBA Finals.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I totally get behind the quote. Jak 3, if you're unaware, is developed by Naughty Dog Games, same developers as Uncharted, The Last of Us, and a very similar vein to Ratchet and Clank. You know, you've got your main character, you've got your goofy sidekick. You've got guns, you've got a humorous tone whilst also being a little adult with some of its humour. And I could see why people would compare the games and why they just wanted to get that noise out of their head and just focus on their own game. And I totally get it.
Oh, I was just going to say, not to like sidetrack us, but every time I think of Naughty Dog, I think about the time that my stepbrother told me about when, because my stepbrother's older than me, but when he was young, he was really into Crash Bandicoot and lots of Naughty Dog games, and he liked to go on naughtydog.com. Yeah. One time, he forgot to put dog in the URL, so he went to naughty.com.
I assume that's not a very ripe front of nostalgia for him. I imagine that's a memory he probably prefers to push out than to bask in. Oh my goodness. Now, to get back on track. This game, number 3, was really a huge leap from the second Ratchet and Clank game. The number of cutscenes and their length increased from just under an hour to an hour and 22 minutes. They added a multiplayer mode. They designed levels around secrets and titanium bolts and statues, and also added an entire side game, the side-scrolling platformer Quark vidcomics, which have some of the best humour and narration in the game, is detailing Captain Quark's totally real and not made-up exploits. Whilst the gameplay definitely feels like a side game, it's just really neat that it's there. It can be a little frustrating. It is necessary to progress through the story, but it's a fun thing to break up the flow of the game and to give you a bit of a breather. And you can put in a cheat code. I believe it's similar to the Konami code to get Captain Quark in a tutu.
Love that.
So you can play as Quark in a tutu. There's a 21-year-old little cheat code for you guys. Now, I mentioned this in our Need for Speed episode, if you, Anastasia, or the viewers recall, but like I said earlier, how quickly they developed games in the past. Yeah. Huge leaps in quality year to year. Like, let's say, for example, going to Naughty Dog, the gaps between The Last of Us and The Last of Us Part 2 is 7 years, or Uncharted 3 and 4 being 5 years. They all have really big substantial jumps in gameplay and graphics, but this used to happen in a year.
Yeah.
Ratchet and Clank 1 and 3 are 2.5 years apart and on the same system, and it's incredible how different they look and feel, how improved the movement is, graphically, everything. It is incredible. It's incredible, and hopefully one day we'll get something closer to that. Not every game has to be 150 hours and incredible. I think, thankfully, the rise of indie games is starting to come back again. So hopefully we'll see some of that in the future, but who's really to say? But from the get-go, I loved Ratchet and Clank. The music, the jokes, the animation, the gameplay, the guns, the dialogue, everything. It grabbed my little 8-year-old mind and never let go. Of course, I was quite young when we got the PlayStation, and I struggled a bit with the difficulty of the game, and unfortunately, I did have to get my sister to beat some parts of the game for me initially. Fake gamer alert over here.
It's okay. This is a safe space. This is Fake Gamers Anonymous. I can admit that when I was a child playing Pokemon Diamond for the first time, I got my brother to do all of the gym leaders for me.
That's the whole part of the game.
I just wanted to catch Pokemon.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad this is a safe space. Obviously now, I'm better at games.
I'm not.
No, I've seen it. You're still terrible. Revisiting games from your childhood, and I replayed this a little while ago to help jog my memory with it all, and I think I played about 12 hours before. Maybe I think I got to the second to last boss fight before I died the first time. It's crazy how the muscle memory comes back. It was great. And to talk more on Ratchet and Clank 3, the first two planets of the game, Veldin and Florana, are just incredible opening levels. Veldin is a short tutorial level. You're given two guns. You've got very basic platforming, a couple different enemy types to introduce you to the combat, to melee combat, enemies with guns, stuff like that. And once you're finally up to speed, you're thrown into Florana as the proper introduction, and it's incredible. It's a beautiful jungle environment with swamps, and probably my favorite music track from the entire game, really. And of course, we're introduced for the first time in this game, but not the first time in the franchise, the first time in this game, to Captain Quark, galactic hero / douche. You track down Captain Quark after watching Nature's Mysteries, a holovid comic where they talk of the monkey man of Florana, and they interview a hillbilly farmer who says he was running around naked and holding a banana. Well, maybe it weren't a banana. And I think that perfectly, that's probably one of the best jokes. It's within the first 20 minutes of the game easily, and it really sets the tone of the humor. If you're 8, you don't really understand what he's saying there. You're just thinking of a big naked guy running around, but when you get older and understand the implications a little bit more, it gets even funnier. I think there's a reason Ratchet and Clank was one of the only games my dad would sit and watch me play, is because he also genuinely found it funny and amusing.
Aww.
Yeah, it's a really... Look, I know that I'm a man child, but it's funny. It's a funny game. Now, every planet in this game, barring maybe 2, has a really distinct and amazing vibe. Each planet has a unique theme. I still go back and listen to the OST sometimes, and I would pay so much money for a vinyl pressing of the soundtrack of this game, from Courtney Gears' planet to the one with all the robots to the other one with all the robots. It's really quite incredible. Little brief interlude here, folks, or Anastasia when you're editing this later. Murphy would like to be let into the room.
I'm just worried with the washing machine. Or do you think just close the door and leave?
If he wants to leave, we can just pause and let him out. Murphy the cat is now in the room. He was expressing his distress at not being allowed in and missing out. So we're joined by our third host, Murphy. Murphy has no concept of Ratchet and Clank or Christmas. So who's to say how much he'll be able to contribute, but we'll have to wait and see. Going on, every gun is unique and great and feels fun to use, and something that later games fall down in somewhat. Looking at you, Tools of Destruction. You can level every gun to a max level, which really encourages you to diversify and not stick to just one gun. It's a mini grind to get every gun to level 5, where they dramatically change in appearance and get a huge upgrade. Special shout out to my bro, the N60 Storm, the best machine pistol / LMG in the entire gaming world. You've played a bit of Ratchet and Clank 3, but not too much.
Yeah.
Do you remember what you like about any particular weapons you really enjoyed? Inferno Whip, the Shock Blaster, the Nitro Launcher.
I think I liked the Inferno Whip.
Yeah, I think the Inferno Whip is a really... Well, I wouldn't say it's a super unique concept, but how it plays within the game is really good. Being able to chain the attacks, which, going to Tools of Destruction, which has like an electro whip that I can't remember the name of, where you can swish it once and then it resets the animation. There's no fluidity to it. You don't move well with it. You can't throw it, and it's a bummer. In my opinion, a little bit of a downgrade there, but we're not here to talk about what I don't like about Tools of Destruction. We're here to talk about what I love. And Murphy the cat has unfortunately left the room. He was really upset about my opinions on Tools of Destruction. Yeah, do you think he'll forgive me?
We'll see.
We'll see. That's alright. Now, and you know what? The characters. Ratchet and Clank are such a terrific duo. The perfect dynamic, you know. Ratchet is all gung-ho, Clank is nervous and analytical. And just to throw back a little bit, this is such an improvement on the first game. Ratchet becomes so much more likable in this game. He's less of an ass, and this is pretty much entirely thanks to new voice actor, as of the second game, but whatever. New voice actor James Arnold Taylor, who you may know as Obi-Wan Kenobi, The Flash, or just any random cartoon or video game voice. I love him. Anastasia loves him.
Mm. Yeah. He has so much stuff. Like any voice actor.
Yeah.
Just 1,000 credits.
Yeah, any good voice actor.
Yeah.
Go to his IMDb. He's in something you love. It's that simple. And of course, the third best character of the game, Captain Quark, our favorite terrible hero. He sucks. He's a coward. He steals. He's a credit stealer. He's a performative fake, and I fucking love him. He's a himbo. Like, he is one of the highlights of this game. Very sorry, folks. Murphy has decided to come back. He cannot decide if he wishes to be out or in the room at all. Oh, no, he just scratched at the door and then ran away, which was very interesting. Now, at one point in the game, I think it's, from memory, it's the second or the third boss, Ratchet / you, the player, kills the mother Terranoid, and Quark comes in, takes full credit, says he did it, and I remember sitting in the games room with my sister, and we finally beat this boss. Dozens of tries. I think it took us at least a week. It was a long time to figure this out. We finally beat it. The cutscene plays. The news reporter comes in. Quark swoops in, stamps on the mother's Terranoid's eyes, and says he did it. The rage from me and my sister at this moment, yelling at Quark, the TV, each other. It's such a core memory. Him coming in and swiping that, because it felt like he was taking it from us, but how much effort it took. When I replayed this game, it brought the feelings back. It really did. Now, the critic world agrees with me. Ratchet and Clank is fucking awesome. Sorry. Ratchet and Clank 3 is fucking awesome. We look to those shining lights of video game journalism, IGN. They gave it a 9.6. And to be honest, I really struggle to find faults with this game. The movement is fluid, the guns all feel great, the humor and jokes rarely fall flat. It doesn't feel forced. All the jokes feel quite earned. It's really a near perfect game. I would say the biggest fault is, I don't know, the control scheme can be a bit outdated, I guess, being from 2007. I don't know what else to say. It's nearly perfect. What's up there for you in terms of perfect games? And I'll say why they're wrong.
Maybe Undertale.
Undertale?
Undertale is pretty good.
I have heard quite good things, so I'll let it slide for now. I will say, Toby Fox, you can't compose a soundtrack as good as Ratchet and Clank, but it's good that you tried. For our audio listeners, the look I'm getting from Anastasia currently is one that could probably melt a steel beam. And I'm scared to regain eye contact, personally.
Toby Fox is amazing. Murphy agrees. I don't know if you guys picked that up on the mic, but Murphy said, "Meow," in agreement.
That's right.
He's also a big Toby Fox fan.
Which is crazy, because he's a cat, not a fox.
Crazy.
You want to finish your thought?
It's good.
It's good?
It's a good game. I need to play more Deltarune. It's good.
Yeah. How good are the guns, though, in Undertale? Does it have guns?
No.
Okay, well, not a perfect game, then. Now, this is the game that got me into gaming Every part of it oozes perfection. It made me buy all the other ones in the series from the pre-owned bin at EB Games. And by all the others, I mean 1, 2, Gladiator, Size Matters, which doesn't count, but we'll count it. And it drastically warped my sense of humour, and it can't be beaten. I go back and I play it every now and then. I replayed it multiple times during quarantine at university when I should have been studying. Sorry, Mum. I just keep coming back to it. I purchased a new PlayStation 2 after my other one died, so I could keep playing it. And yeah, as I mentioned, there are 3 other PS2 Ratchet and Clank games, ignoring the PSP ports of Secret Agent Clank and Size Matters. The first game's really, it feels like a proof of concept more than anything. It's good. I would say if you were going to play the series, play it. But it does miss the mark on a couple things that really make the later games amazing, particularly Ratchet's characterization. He's a bit too mean for the entirety of the game. I get it why he is at the start. The health system's not as good. You only get 4 health minus other upgrades, but it's not quite there yet, and you can really tell. Going Commando, the sequel, of course, a bit of an innuendo there if you didn't get it. Going Commando. I'm not going to force this joke wherever this is going. I'm not going to force it. Going Commando, the sequel, it's a gigantic improvement over the first. You get gun levels properly, better visuals, the whole 9 yards. The humor's better, Ratchet's better, it looks better. And, of course, Ratchet and Clank is perfect. Like, it can't be ignored. Number 3. And then Ratchet Gladiator, the 4th game in the series. It has its problems, but I think it's pretty damn great. Losing Clank on Ratchet's back shifts up the movement and stuff in a way that is hard to get used to initially, but the extra emphasis on vehicles, the co-op robots that follow you, and actually like a 2-player campaign, if you want to play it that way, I think really improves it, and continues the great series of humour. And as I mentioned, a couple years ago, mid-lockdown, I replayed them all, and I think they really hold up. The first one misses out without the weapon leveling and strafing, makes it really hard. Not being able to sidestep, it's like not being able to walk backwards in the real world. It's great. Whether it's an emulator or on a physical console, you've got to play these games at least once. They're seriously some of the best games of all time. And dare I say, gameplay-wise, better than the PS5 one. I'm currently making Anastasia playthrough up your arsenal. It has been a little while. And Anastasia, how do you think you're trucking with it so far?
Oh god, it's been so long since we've played, but I don't know, not too bad.
Yeah, you're getting there.
Yeah, I don't know, there's just always something about the classic versions of the game, you know? Like, it's like playing the remake of the Crash Bandicoot games.
Yeah.
It's too polished.
Exactly. You need that bit of flub. That's why I prefer running it on original hardware versus, if you can, of course. If you can't, you can't. But if you can, versus emulating, because with emulating, you can upscale it and you can get it to run at higher frames and the load times are quicker.
Yeah.
No, you sit through those load times. The ship blasts through the air, it replays the same animation every time you go to a different planet, and you sit there and you like it.
It's the same feeling that I have about the Animal Crossing series. While I do quite like New Horizons, for me, I can't really go back to it. If I were to play Animal Crossing again, I would want to play one of the older ones.
Yeah.
Because I love the low poly feel of it and all that kind of stuff, and just totally. Whilst Tom Holland's Spider-Man movies may technically be better, you go back to Tobey Maguire. Oh yeah.
Now I will limit my comments on the PS3 games. I have only I haven't really played them. I got a Wii U as my next console, which is exactly what I asked for Christmas and not what I didn't ask for. And I've only recently started playing Tools of Destruction, and I've got to say, it doesn't beat the heights of 3, despite the generational leap. It doesn't have all of what makes the first 4 games really special, and it really flubbed the landing. It feels like, even though there is a 4th game with Ratchet Gladiator, it feels like Ratchet 3.5. There's a lot more in-engine cutscenes, which I get why they thought was impressive at the time, but it really takes away from a lot of the feeling and the humor with the pre-made cutscenes, when it's just a character standing in the world talking. Whilst they might say something funny, you don't get the same impact as them acting it out or focusing on them in a cutscene. It makes it a lot easier to ignore or miss certain parts of the humor or the story. And yeah, it just doesn't feel as good. Especially the Clank missions are much worse. You play as Clank on his own multiple times in 3, and they're just better. Now, let's leap straight past the PS3 games and straight to the year of our Lord 2016, right when everything started to go just horribly, horribly wrong. I purchased a PS4 with the money from my first job, and I was ready to jump straight back into PlayStation's catalogue. And so what was up with my beloved Ratchet and Clank when I rejoined the community? It was in the same boat as many great franchises at the time. In 2016, some people came along and said, why don't we do that successful thing, but a bit different? The Jungle Book, Jason Bourne, Ghostbusters, and yes, Ratchet and Clank all saw reboots, reimaginings, and revivals. All of them to critical acclaim, if I remember correctly.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Especially the Jungle Book.
Yeah. I totally remembered that was a thing before I was researching stuff that happened in 2016. I remember Mowgli running around and Baloo.
I just remember... What is the monkey that sings I Want to Be Like You?
Yep.
Yeah.
He sure does.
It's like... He is like 2 stories tall for some reason.
Terrifying.
He's played by that guy that talks like this.
I have no idea. I'm not Googling it either. I'm leaving it at that.
He's the dad in Hairspray and...
Oh yeah, that guy. Christopher Walken.
Yeah.
He's not Christopher swinging through the jungle on some vines. He's Christopher Walken.
Yeah.
Man. The reason I pre-write a bunch of this shit. Now, Ratchet and Clank 2016 is a mishmash of the first game and the third, with the most overall plot taken from the first game, but adding fan-favourite character Dr. Nefarious from the third game. The plot differences can technically be explained in-universe as Captain Quark telling the story to someone else, with all the changes attributed to his unreliable narration. Some of these changes were minor, whereas others were entirely new characters. Characters that were made so famous people could be chucked in and do their voices, but not their voices for the game. This game was made in parallel with a tie-in film, sharing plot, scenes, character models, the whole wazoo, and the end result was a pretty dang solid game and a pretty meh film. The game does pretty much everything right. It gameplay-wise, it expands from the PS2 and PS3 games, makes it more fluid, weapons are fun, better and more in-depth weapon upgrading, good visuals, pretty unmemorable music to be honest with you, and boss fights are a bit too easy, but overall, solid. Now, last night, Anastasia and I watched the film, and we're here primarily to give our thoughts on that. My thoughts obviously being far more important.
I was about to ask you to pass my phone over so I could look at my notes, but I don't know.
Look, we took some notes.
We did.
The plot is, for those who don't know, Chairman Drek wants to rebuild a planet. Dr. Nefarious says, nuh-uh. And yeah, basically that's it. Ratchet becomes a galactic ranger. He likes them, does well. Quark doesn't like him. Quark betrays them. He has a heartfelt speech, and he changes his ways. The plot's fine. In terms of an adaptation from the first game, it's not too bad. One thing the first game does a much better job at is conveying the capitalistic nature of Chairman Drek.
Yeah.
In the movie, he's just kind of bad because he's bad and his people want a different planet. But in the game, it's much more environmentalism and capitalism, and it's a lot less subtle with its themes. It's a lot clearer. Now, the first thing I have written down is that we'll talk initially about the voice actors. The ones that come across from the game and are the continuing voices of those characters. Ratchet, Clank, Dr. Nefarious, Captain Quark. Pretty good. Captain Quark and Dr. Nefarious's voices both sound a bit tired, but I'll let it slide given they're 70-year-old men at that time.
Yeah, and I think, I feel like with Dr. Nefarious, it's a little bit of a straining voice.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
And especially since he's biological Dr. Nefarious instead of robot Dr. Nefarious, they can't use any effects to jazz up his voice. But overall, it's fine. I noticed it, but what are you going to do? Going off that, however, they changed a couple voices, namely Chairman Drek. Chairman Drek was originally voiced by the fantastic voice actor whose name escapes me at this moment, and I didn't write down, but you did.
Kevin Michael Richardson.
Kevin Michael Richardson, who you will probably know from nowadays as the Molar twins in Invincible, and he's phenomenal. He's fantastic. I love his slimy, skeevy voice in the game. I showed Anastasia the clips of him.
I think he's the Doctor in The Simpsons.
And possibly the Doctor in The Simpsons. What did you think of his new voice? Oh, we haven't gotten there. Who voices him, by the way, instead of the fantastic seasoned voice actor that is his fucking job? Paul Giamatti. You know, that guy who's the little guy in Robots and other stuff. He does other things, but he sucks. And the voice sucks. It's not as sinister. It comes off as way more cartoony and boring, and it sucks. It sucks. I hate it. I think that's the worst thing about the film. Nearly is Chairman Drek's voice.
Yeah, and look, it's not really a good start considering he's one of the first.
Yeah, he's one of the first characters that speaks. One of the major characters. I would say Sylvester Stallone does a worse job, but I'll let it slide.
He doesn't really talk that much in it, does he?
He's a goofy robot.
Yeah.
You can let it go. I feel like the humor isn't quite there, unfortunately. It's definitely... I wrote down it's PG, not PG-13. I know that's a tiny difference, but it's missing that a little bit of adult humor or that bit of cynicism, which I think made the first few games really terrific.
Yeah.
Everything's so fun and hooray and zany. There's very little... Yeah, it's... I want that bit of cynicism in the humor. It feels a bit toned down. Notably, that's a complaint many fans of the series have for the tone of the series with the PS4, well, the game as well on its own, as well as the most recent PS5 game. Whilst it is good, it's just not there. The made-up Galactic Rangers I don't love. There's characters that fill those roles within the game universe as established characters that I feel didn't need to be made, but they were made so they could have more celebrities in the voice cast. The Galactic Rangers roles, there's a big buff idiot. She already exists in the game universe. There's a doofy IT guy that not a lot of people take seriously, but actually has some good ideas. There's these characters that already exist and make up such heart and soul of the series, but cutting them so that Bella Thorne can do a voice role.
Yeah.
So they can make a better toy. I don't remember seeing any merchandise from this. I imagine, because, spoiler alert, it was a financial failure.
They had to make up the money somehow.
Well, I don't think they got the budget. There was no interest in it, so I'm not surprised they didn't go ahead with toys or anything. It had a budget of $20 million US and didn't even make that back at the box office. When you account for marketing, that means it probably lost at least $10 million. Normally, with marketing, I would say you double the budget, is from what I've heard, but considering the marketing from this, I remember being very minimal. Do you remember seeing anything for it?
No.
Yeah, very, very minimal. I think they knew they didn't have a massive hit on their hands and didn't really bother and tried to minimize their losses. But on box office alone, it still lost $5.4 million. And I wonder how much of that they could have saved if they didn't ham-fist John Goodman into this movie as well.
Yeah.
John Goodman's character serves little to no purpose.
He's supposed to be a voice of reason, you know, a
father figure.
A mentor for Ratchet.
Yeah.
But I think one of the big things is that he's in the like, kind of the start of the film and then kind of towards the end of the film. There's no, like, point where Ratchet's like, man, I miss my father figure character.
What would John Goodman think of what's going on?
Man, I should have really listened to him or something like that. There was no...
Yeah, and it detracts so much from the film, him just being there. But perhaps my biggest problem with this movie, before we get into what we actually liked about the movie, my biggest problem is Ratchet and Clank do not form a bond.
No.
They don't... You don't think, oh, they're buddies now. It's no, they meet each other, they get to know each other a bit, they save the day in the end of the first act, and then they split up. Clank ends up with the IT lady, Ratchet ends up with Quark and the other Rangers for most of the film. It doesn't earn the end of the film where Clank comes back to help Ratchet with his car mechanic stuff. It doesn't earn that at all. It's supposed to be about their friendship and them uniting, and they have such little screen time together to actually develop. I wouldn't be surprised if Ratchet and Quark share more screen time than Ratchet and Clank.
Yeah, it's not like... I know it's probably a better example, but, like, the first thing that comes to mind is it's not like, you know, like Big Hero 6, where, you know, Baymax and Hero... They spend a bunch of time together, and at first, Hero really doesn't like Baymax, and they slowly, like, you know, work out that they have a lot more in common, and stuff like that. There's not really any of that. It's just kind of... There was some semblance of that in, like, their first meeting of, like, oh, cute little handshake thing. Yeah. But then that was kind of it.
Yeah, it's totally unearned.
Yeah.
It really makes me think whoever wrote this, whoever assembled the script, whatever the studio took off of Insomniac, they didn't really get it, and that bums me out. But firstly, what we actually did like about the movie, I, for one, think it looks fantastic.
Yeah, I think that well, especially since it's based off of, you know, the worlds of Ratchet and Clank and all that kind of stuff. They did a very good job of translating that. I really liked Ratchet's fur. The texture on him was really nice. He looked very soft and fluffy.
Yeah, he looks like a fuzzy little guy.
Yeah, very nice. I really liked the old man in that one scene.
In the intro?
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's a My Little Pony voice actor as well.
Yeah, so, when we were watching it, there's, like, a scene where this old man comes into Ratchet's garage, and then Ratchet, like, takes him for a ride. And I'm like, I know that voice. So I had to, of course, I didn't catch what the character's name was. So I looked through the IMDb list, and I'm like, what sounds like an old man's name? Oh, Mr. whatever it was. And I found his IMDb page, and I'm like, oh, of course, I know him from so many different things. He is in Barbie movies. He's in various Barbie movies as, like, little characters, but he also plays Bibble.
fan favorite character Bibble.
Absolutely. He plays Fungus 1 and 2 in Mermaidia.
I wish I knew what that meant.
Oh, you will soon, because we'll have to watch Mermaidia for the Barbie movie episode.
God damn it.
He plays Snips from My Little Pony, who is from the duo Snips and Snails, which are the Cutie Mark Crusaders classmates. And he plays Dr. Frog in League of Super Evil.
Oh, Dr. Frog.
Red banners. He is Yakety Yak.
He is Yakety Yak. Okay, I didn't even pick that.
And also played like a bunch of various Death Note characters, obviously in the dub, not the sub. It would have been really impressive if he just like speaks full Japanese and he's light in the sub note. He's in the dub. He has 209 voice credits,
including this 5-minute role in the hit Ratchet and Clank film.
Yeah.
Another little thing that I really like is the couple recurring characters that they do use, specifically Juanita and Dallas, the hosts of Dread Zone in Ratchet Gladiator. They're not in the same roles. Juanita is just a reporter, and Dallas is just a normal news host, as opposed to hosts of the deadliest game show in the galaxy. But I really liked that as a little something for us fans. So as the IT lady is playing Ratchet and Clank 3 in first-person mode at one point in the office.
That was a cool little reference.
I liked that as a little Easter egg. But unfortunately, good Easter eggs don't make a movie good.
Yeah. It's not enough for a film to have every 5 seconds that little Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah. Oh. Look, it's that thing you like. And it's a bummer. I ended the film. I didn't hate it. I don't think it's a terrible film. I would say if you're a fan of the series, watch it. But it should have been, and it could have been so much more. Adult humor in animation is nothing new.
Yeah.
And it sucks that it got cut out of this. It feels a bit soulless.
Yeah, and it's very much, it's like kids don't know the jokes, you know?
Yeah,
like, you could have rewatched, like, for example, rewatching Shrek as an adult.
Exactly.
And hearing all those things and just going, oh my god.
I'm going to take a quick look, because I have forgotten the studio that made this. Because I feel like it's something that if handed to the likes of, well, first of all, old DreamWorks, could have been a lot better.
Is it Blue Skies or something?
It is Rainmaker Entertainment. Now, Rainmaker Entertainment, exactly, they have made two films. They also made Escape from Planet Earth. You remember that one?
No.
Exactly.
But they made a Hot Wheels show. Scroll down. They made a Hot Wheels show.
They made a bunch of Hot Wheels
Acceleracers.
Okay, I can see they've got a lot of experience with television movies and direct to video. A fair number. Anastasia's just seen Barbie Fairytopia.
Well, I saw Dolphin Magic, which is the lesbian one. And then I saw Princess and the Pauper, which is the other lesbian one.
And then there's also Tony Hawk in Boom Boom Sabotage, if you're aware of that one.
It smells like pee-pee and poo-poo in here.
Seriously, it smells like Wee Whiz and Cucket. They have made so many Barbie movies.
Okay,
It's
I respect
actually
this.
insane. Most of their work is Barbie movies.
Well, that would make sense why that guy was in it then.
Yeah, it looks like they also worked on a lot of the CG for Stargate SG-1, which I know a lot of people really like. The remake of Bob the Builder, that's a bummer. Transformers Beast Wars. Okay, that show looks terrible. Spider-Man, the new animated series, look, they tried. They tried their best. It was supposed to be their big hit, only their second film released into cinemas, and I can see why it didn't work.
Yeah.
It's just...
Well, 2016 was way past the Barbie prime
Yeah.
of Barbie movies, so I can understand them having a bit of a slump.
Yeah, look, I can see what they were trying to do, and unfortunately it just didn't work. I think the voice cast is severely lackluster. I feel like they could have gotten much better performances for half the cost of I can't imagine what John Goodman, Sylvester Stallone, Paul Giamatti, Bella Thorne, etc. demanded in their pay packets, you know. Speaking of which, Paul Giamatti's paycheck accidentally got sent to the original Chairman Drek voice actor. It seems like it was a bit of a mess behind the scenes.
Yeah.
It's clear not everyone knew what they wanted it to be. And look, despite the lackluster reception of the film, I did enjoy the game quite a lot. Returning to these characters after so long for me was more than enough to make up for its misgivings. Gameplay was great. The humor was almost there. Like I said, even in the game, it's still just turned down. I would say Captain Quark carries the film. We get him sketching a plan like he's known to do. It's got so many little things that makes me think it was so close to being good. But it really didn't stick the landing. I would say this film's failure killed the reboot of the Sly Cooper franchise, which was supposed to get a film.
Yeah.
I would say that's related, and I'm pretty sure this timeline is abandoned. The most recent PS5 game continues on from Into the Nexus. The PS3 Ratchet and Clank game pretty much ignores this, apart from a small Easter egg about Chairman Drek. The Nostalgia Bait Cat has hopped into a box, just letting everyone know. He is getting comfy.
There's actually a guillotine in there, so I better take that out.
Oh. No, well, Murphy's out of the box as well. He was not decapitated by the guillotine. Well, it's okay.
It's only a tiny little blade, right?
Yeah.
I don't want it to nick it.
But big enough to behead a cat.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just going to say back to how I think that, yeah, like you were saying, that there could have been like a Sly Cooper movie. I bet there could have been like so many different... It could have, like, if this was a successful film, it could have opened the doors for a bunch of...
Excluding, in terms of PlayStation properties, excluding The Last of Us miniseries, I would say there was a fair amount of potential there. The Gran Turismo movie's terrible, don't bother. But things like Sly Cooper, Crash Bandicoot, Jak and Daxter, all things that could get revived or experience a bit of a resurgence from an animated film or series or whatever. And I think the failure of this really made them just cut the cord on a lot of that. And really, I don't know what more there is to say on it, apart from it's just, if you love the series and you watch this, you'll come away being like, yeah, that was alright, but mostly you'll just be thinking about what it could be.
Yeah.
And how much better it could have been. I love this franchise immensely. If you haven't played any of these games, give them a go. If you're only on the PS5 or the PS4, get the PS4 remake, get Rift Apart, play them. If you've got access to a PlayStation 2 or a PlayStation 3, play the original 4 games, get the HD trilogy on PS3. You're missing out on one of the greatest game series of all time if you haven't played them. Yeah, they're terrific. I'm not sure what else there is to say, really, apart from I hate you, Paul Giamatti. I really do. I'm going to look up your filmography right now, and I'm going to talk shit about it.
I'm going to look up your address.
Well, I'm going to do that when we're not recording, obviously.
Paul Giamatti, just how it's spelled. He's got that... Ugh. I forgot what he looked like for a second. You know, you're in Fred Claus, Paul Giamatti. Big Mama's House.
You're in Big Mama's House. You're in Planet of the Apes 2001 remake. Come on, guy. You're just... I don't like you, Paul Giamatti.
No. Yeah.
Oh, you're in Rick and Morty. Shut up.
Yeah.
You're in Jungle Cruise. You're in Big Mouth as Andrew's shit. Thanks, Paul Giamatti. Thanks for taking the chairman Drek role.
Absolutely. I just and it's not even like a case of, oh yeah, actually, execs have learnt their lesson and have started casting better people for animated films. No, because fucking Chris Pratt is gonna be Garfield. It's like they never learn.
We should do an episode on that. We should do an episode of Chris Pratt being Garfield.
But it's true. They never learn. They never learn that. Get these motherfuckers that have... Get Bibble. Get Bibble into your films, you know? Get these people that actually know how to voice act.
Yeah.
Because there is so much more to voice acting than regular acting. They are two different skills.
Yeah, I think they get these names and throw them in. And here's the extra thing. The celebrity voice actors didn't even lend their voices to the game.
Yeah.
What's the point? If you're going to make a tie-in film and video game that are developed in conjunction with each other, they shared computer models, character models, gun models, physics, all that sort of thing. They shared that in development. Why bother paying those celebs when you could use the voice actors that were good enough for the video game version?
Yeah. If you're going to do it, go the whole way. Do a Tobey Maguire and voice the video game.
I don't care how annoyed you are about that woman leaving her purse on the roof or whatever, Toby.
On another roof?
On another roof? But yeah, that's an exact thing. If you're going to do it right. Sorry to end on such a downer there, folks, but Ratchet and Clank's great, and it sucks that its legacy was besmirched in some way. But thankfully, we know from the Insomniac Games studio leaks that we are going to get another Ratchet and Clank game eventually.
Cool.
Murphy's excited. I'm excited. It's probably not going to be until 2028, but that's okay. Because in the meantime, we'll have... Just kidding. Nothing scratches that itch. And all this talking about Ratchet and Clank has made me decide I'm going to play 3 again. There's nothing else to say. It's terrific, and I'm going to keep coming back to it. And look, to be honest, if I keep talking, we're going to be here all day. Please like this episode, follow the podcast, listen to a couple of our other episodes if you like. We will be back again shortly with what, Anastasia?
My Little Pony.
That's right. Everyone's favourite cartoon about horses. Except for Spirit, the better one.
My goodness.
I've been Ryan.
And I've been Anastasia.
And thank you for listening to Nostalgia Bait. Goodbye.